Hey everybody, how you doing? My name is RC Smith and this is a brand new streaming video service called Cooking with Comics. We're here in an undisclosed bunker somewhere between Wuhan, China and California. And we're holed up in here and we're gonna cook a nice dinner for you tonight. A lot of people always said to me, you know, you post such interesting things on video and on Facebook, why not show us some of your recipes? So I'm gonna do that, but I'm not doing it alone. Since this is called Cooking with Comics, I thought I'd invite a couple of comics. So let me introduce them to you. On my right here is the beautiful and talented Sheena Regan. She is a comic here in Southwest Florida. Regan or Reagan?
It's Reagan, but that's okay.
All right, well, maybe her twin sister is Reagan. Anyway, Sheena's here. Very funny, very exciting to have here today. And she's one of the first people that actually sort of embraced me when I moved here to Southwest Florida. She wrote an article about me for a magazine, and I really like her a lot because I think she's particularly funny. Also joining us to her right is the beautiful and talented Jamie Morgan. Is it Morgan?
Morgan.
It is Morgan. Okay, so Jamie Morgan is here. He's a comic, but he's also one of the co-owners of Laugh-In Comedy Cafe, and actually the third owner that I've gone through here at the Comedy Cafe. So I've outlived all of them. So he doesn't have much longer, honestly. But this is where we're in. We're in the kitchen of Laugh-In Comedy Cafe, and we're doing an amazing dish. I've sort of invented this myself. It's a Greek-inspired shrimp dish. I hesitate to say Greek-inspired because I know how people freak out when you mention things like Chinese virus and stuff like that. But as far as I know, this recipe did originate in Greece. So we're gonna go ahead and start cooking. Let me go through the ingredients really quick. We have a dozen of large red shrimp. I'll talk about those in a second. 1 red bell pepper, 1 red onion, fennel, a can of crushed tomatoes, capers, olives, vermouth, dried oregano, red pepper flakes, and feta cheese. Now I know people at home are saying, shrimp, I'm allergic to shrimp. You know what? You're not here. So it doesn't matter whether you're eating it or not. Are you guys allergic to shrimp? You are? Get the hell out of here.
I'm not.
Okay.
Not today, I'm not.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to have him eat it, and then we're going to time it and see how long it takes for his throat to close up. That'll be very talented. So, honestly, this dish can be made with chicken, and anything that we do here can be substituted out for something that you do like. So don't say, ooh, I don't like fennel until you've actually tried it. But anything could be substituted out. I don't know where it is where you live, but here in the Fort Myers area, finding chicken in the supermarket is like trying to find the phoenix. It's impossible. So you go in and all they have is like a couple of wings, but they have plenty of shrimp and plenty of pork and plenty of beef, so we're living large. So I say we get started. By the way, I know that there's only 4 of us here. We have Mike, or Jamie and Sheena, and on camera is Mike Zimmer. He is the president of Zimco, and he's in charge. It's weird though, because he did want to take our temperatures using a rectal thermometer when we came in here today. I don't know why he did that. By the way, my temperature is normal.
It's a new thing.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to do a little bit of chopping first. When you're holding a knife, make sure you hold it like this. Don't do this because it could slip and fall and you could cut yourself. If you're going to hold your knife, hold it like a man, for God's sake. That's the way it's supposed to be done. By the way, this knife was actually used by Jim Bowie at the fall of the Alamo in 1836.
He was also dying.
He was dying.
He was dying.
While he was making this dish. So this is Jim Bowie's Greek-inspired red shrimp recipe. All right. Do you guys cook? Do you cook at home?
Yes.
A bit.
Well,
I tried to make chicken and dumplings this week,
right.
and we went to the store 7 times. So I found some chicken wings. So we made it out of chicken wings.
You can do chicken and dumplings with wings.
Yeah, no, we did.
All right, so you notice that I'm cutting the onion here. I'm taking off the peel. We're only going to use half an onion for this dish because there's really only 3 of us eating. I'm not going to feed Mike. There's only 3 of us eating here. So when you're cutting, one of the things that you have to be very careful about is not cutting off a digit. That would suck, wouldn't it? So it's not red shrimp with fingers. It's red shrimp with vegetables. So what you do is you take a knife, make sure it's nice and sharp. Dull knives hurt a lot more than sharp knives. More accidents happen with a dull knife. So so all you do to cut an onion is just sort of cut across like this. And then you slice it.
I would like to change my answer to no, I don't cook.
You don't?
After
Okay.
saying that, no.
I'm just cooking an onion. So I think that's probably enough right there. So we'll go with that as all the onions that we're going to use. While I'm cutting this, what I want to do is I want to get my pan on the stove. Very important that you have a hot pan when you're cooking. The old saying is that hot pan, cold oil, and the food won't stick. And if you have it up to temperature, you can cook it a lot faster. All the recipes that I'm doing are actually going to be only about 15 or 20 minutes long. So this is stuff that you can cook at home. You can get it up for your family in a short time, and everybody can be fed. And you can put the kids in their room and spend the rest of the night having fun. So we cut the onions. Next thing we're going to do is the fennel. I was never a big fennel fan until about a year ago. No lie. It smells a little bit like licorice. Fennel. Do you guys like fennel?
Never heard of it.
I don't know if I've ever had it.
Here, it smells a little bit. Take the whole thing. It smells a little bit like licorice.
Oh, it
You'll
does.
notice, yeah, it's got that anise flavor, so it's very licoricey, which is great. And the combination of fennel and onions together is one of the most delicious things ever. And so I have the onions, so I'm going to do the fennel here. And the whole idea when I'm cooking is I want the vegetables to be cut very, very thin. By the way, everything has been washed. I washed my hands. I spent the whole last 2 weeks walking around like this, like a surgeon, every time I come out of the bathroom. So I wash my hands here. So we're going to cut up the fennel. And again, we're not doing a heck of a lot, just enough to get a flavor here. So there's the fennel right there. So we have the onions, we have the fennel, and you know what I always do? I always throw in a few of the fennel fronds as well, because it adds like a really, really nice flavor as well.
That might look good on the menu here.
Fennel fronds.
I've never even heard of
And
it.
it could come with a
I
dip.
thought it was just celery.
I thought it was an onion. I thought it was a scallion, a big scallion.
Name of the show is Cooking with Comics, not Cooking with Geniuses. Now, this is one of my favorite tricks. We're using a red bell pepper. You know the difference between peppers. The bigger they are, they tend to have less heat. A red bell pepper has no heat at all on the Scoville scale, as they say. People don't really know how to cut them because there's a lot of seeds. So all I do is I cut off the top, and then if you see in here, it has all the little pockets. All you do is just slice down the pockets.
Whoa.
Dude, mind blown. Mind blown.
I always rip it off and those seeds.
I do too, and I scrape them out,
There
get
you
a
go.
spoon,
No, look,
rinse it out
not
with
a
tap water.
seed in the pepper. And then all I'm going to do with this is just cut it into really thin strips. Again, keep your fingers bent under when you're cutting because you don't want to do that. Cut your fingers. Now people say, hey, you're not a trained chef. You know what? I would say that most of the people who are cooking at home are not trained chefs. And one of the things that I've learned from all the TV shows, I worked on The Rachel Ray Show, I worked on The Chew with Mario Batali, Michael Simon, Clinton Kelly, Carla Hall, Daphne Oz. I worked with Emeril Lagasse, I worked with Guy Fieri. And one of the things that I've learned from all those guys, I worked with Ming Tsai. One of the things that all the Food Network stars teach is that anybody can do it at home. The main thing is don't be afraid. Put all the flavors in that you like and don't be afraid. It's only food. It either comes out or it doesn't. And if it doesn't come out, you order carry out. All right, it's that simple. I did carry out the other night here in Southwest Florida, and it was weird. They came running out to the curb with the food and everything. You called like 20 minutes ahead, and you get the feeling that they're waiting for you because the phone rings. They're like, "Hello." I'm like,
So excited.
Yeah, I'd like to order. Yeah. What do you want? Well, I kind of want the dragon roll. It's ready right now. Come on over. It's very weird.
It is. It's great.
All right, so there is all of our vegetables. They're all cooked. They're ready to go. One thing first, before I do that, I'm going to throw in a couple of garlic cloves, just because I like garlic. We don't want it to be over garlicky, but we want a little bit of flavor. So there's a couple ways you can do it. Usually when I cook with garlic, I take a microplane and I go like that on it, and it makes a nice paste, and then it kind of dissipates. But for this dish, I kind of want the bite of garlic. So when you're biting into the garlic and the onions and everything, I want there to be pieces of it. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. And I can smell that my pan is actually up to temperature. You use all your senses when you're in the kitchen. If you start to smell like it smells a little bit like metal, then you know that your pan is definitely ready to go. So I'm going to go over here a little bit. We're going to see if the pan is nice and hot, which it is. So I'm using a very light olive oil today. So I'm putting that in the pan. And And then I'm just gonna throw all the vegetables in. And that's the sizzle that you want. That means stuff is actually cooking. And automatically you start to smell the onions and the garlic as it wafts all over the place. The idea with this is just to sort of keep it moving. You don't really want to get any brown on it. That will come a little bit later, but right now you just want to get the vegetables nice and sauteed. And all the flavors are melding together. Don't I sound like I know what I'm talking about? I really don't. I just cook stuff. It's that simple. Can you smell that? Can you smell it wafting over towards you? It smells really good.
One of the reports on the news today was loss of sense of smell is an indicator of the COVID-19 virus. So
Really,
there.
if you lose your sense of smell, that's a sign that you have the coronavirus.
That's the latest today.
Sheena doesn't smell anything.
What says you, Sheena?
I feel fine.
But you do smell that, right?
Yeah.
You do? I smell it.
Right. I don't do the flippy thing, by the way. What's that in there? That looks like a piece of a bell pepper. We don't need that at all. So, Nate, you see that the garlic is starting to toast just a little bit, which is fine.
Show us that.
You can see the garlic is getting a little brown. We don't want it too much more brown than that because if garlic burns, it tastes really, really bitter. And then you have to throw the whole thing out. So you want to keep it lighter on the front side. Now, this is like a professional stove. So if the pan starts getting too hot, I would just move it off the heat for a couple of seconds. Instead of playing with the switch, flame up, flame down, I tend to keep my flames at a high heat all the time and then cook at really high temperature. If the pan starts to get too hot, I just move it off the stove. It's pretty simple. But this is doing really well, so I think it's time to actually move on. So we're going to leave that there for a second. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to get my seasonings. Actually, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to bring the pan to me. So over here, salt and pepper. Don't be afraid to salt liberally. This is the only chance that you're going to get. And if you salt a lot before, then people are going to be less likely to add salt. So I got salt and pepper. I'm adding a little bit of dried oregano, which is going to go in there. Jamie, this looks familiar, doesn't it? Look, look.
What is that?
Yeah. Some people say it's oregano. I don't know what you call it.
Oh, I smoked that.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's that, the dried oregano, and I'm going to add some red pepper flakes. Do you like spice, the two of you?
Yes.
Excellent. I like spice. As a chef friend of mine used to say, the more spice you have in a dish, it's called riding the lightning. So we're going to ride the lightning a little bit today and have some of that. I'm also going to throw in some capers and also a little bit of the liquid that they're brining. I'm going to throw in some black Kalamata olives, and we're going to take this back over to the stove, and we're going to start heating that up a little bit. Now that looks good enough to eat right there.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, if you took that and put it on a piece of toasted bread, there's an appetizer right there. This could be a totally vegetarian dish. And it smells really good. Now you're smelling the olives, the brine of the olives and the capers coming up. I'm going to turn the flame up just a tad. Want it a little higher, because I like it to be sizzling the whole time when I cook. So I like to hear that sizzle. Once the flame goes out or once the pan cools off, then you got to sort of start all over again. So now you can see that it's all starting to cook. And we got a little bit of brown on the bottom of the pan. Not a lot, but that's okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to deglaze the pan a little bit. This is dry vermouth. I always have dry vermouth in the house because I make a lot of martinis. So I'm going to deglaze the pan. And to deglaze the pan means that you're taking all the brown bits off the bottom and scraping them off, and all that is flavor that's getting added to the dish. Don't pour alcohol over an open flame, or that'll be it for all of us. The bunker will be breached, and we don't want that. So we're taking it off. We're pouring in a little bit of the vermouth. There's the sound right there. Putting it back on. Well, you can do it with wine if you're don't drink alcohol. You can even do it with water. So a little bit of water as well. It doesn't have the same flavor as if you're using alcohol, but it adds, to me, like a really nice clean taste. So if I don't have alcohol in the house, if I don't have alcohol in the house, I'll use water a lot of times. But look how clean the pan is now.
You don't have alcohol in the house. You're in the wrong house.
Changed my life.
See, there's no brown on the bottom, and it's also easier to clean the pan.
That's what I was going to say.
Yep.
Super easy.
What does that do to the flavor? As far as
Well, the vermouth actually, dry vermouth to me has like a real earthy flavor about it. So it adds like a bottom note to the dish, where something that's a little more acidic, which you'll see in a minute, adds what I call a top note. So right now the vermouth and the vegetables and the garlic and the capers and the olives, they're all blending together right now to add a bunch of flavors. By the way, I did the math. To do this dish at home would cost only about 15 cents. No, I don't know how much it costs. I'm not an economist, for God's sake. All right, so now it's about time to add our last couple of ingredients. I got a can of crushed tomatoes here. This is all they had in the store. It's a really good brand, but you'll notice that the crushed tomatoes tend to have a little bit of texture to them. They don't look like tomato juice or anything like that. I like a little bit of texture in the sauce, because that way then as it cooks down, it gets more flavorful. So I always go with the crushed tomatoes. So we go over here to the pan, it's deglaze, you add the sauce to it. I'm not adding a lot, probably about half a can or so. And we're gonna let that cook. Give that a good stir. And if you were like a real chef, you would say that you're incorporating all the flavors. If you're at home, you would say, I'm just kind of stirring it around. Just stir it around. So what do you like to cook, Jamie? What's your favorite thing to cook?
A few things. I like to do Cuban pulled pork and then tomato gravy and biscuits for breakfast.
Nice.
It's my great grandmother
Is
from
it now,
Alabama.
do you say gravy as opposed to sauce?
Well, it's gravy, yeah.
Okay. So
It's just diced tomatoes, a little bit of bacon grease. You have to eat bacon grease if you're Southern, right?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh, you
it
have
does
to-
make it much better. I've made it without it, and it just doesn't taste the same. Like, and it's just you just bake, have some biscuits and tomato gravy. It's super easy.
So you've been eating this since you were like a little kid.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Hers was better than mine, but mine's better than my dad's.
See, it skips a generation.
Yeah, exactly.
And what do you like to make, Sheena?
I make a really good meatloaf.
Oh, very nice. What do you put in it?
I put in, so other than like the normal things, the half pork, half beef, I do a sweet onion, a green bell pepper, feta cheese, and then I grill it first.
Right.
Then the oven, sweet baby rays, and then let that glaze.
Oh,
it's
that's
super good.
ridiculous.
Nobody can beat my meatloaf to date.
Isn't that a song from the 80s, Nobody Can Beat My Meatloaf? I'm pretty sure that was a big hit for somebody. I didn't do this before. I'm going to add just a little bit of salt and pepper to the sauce. You got to really season as you go along, because that way then every layer of flavor, continues to grow and grow. I ground my own fresh black pepper at home too. I have a coffee grinder. I put peppercorns in it. I use some of them that are really fine and others that have more of a whole chunk to it, I guess. I like the different texture. So I like big bites of pepper, little bites of pepper, and it kind of makes everything a little interesting.
You think, are you ever at home like, can you get me 5 big bites of pepper and a handful of little pepper, please?
You know, back in New York City in the 1600s, there was a park, and to get into the park, Bowling Green, to get in was 5 peppercorns. That was what the cost was to get
Wow.
in. Yeah. So every time I'm cooking with this, I'm like, I could get into any park in the United States
In the
in the 1600s, if there was a United States.
Sure.
I could have gotten in. All right, so this is coming along really, really nice. I am going to turn down the flame just a tad now that we're starting to cook with some gas here.
Are you ever afraid of your pomade catching flame?
No, my pomade is actually not oil-based, it's water-based, so my hair has never caught on fire. It's not like I'm Gene Simmons, relax. All right, so this is my favorite ingredient. These are called Argentinian red shrimp. They're from the deep waters off the coast of Argentina, really, really deep waters, cold waters, and honestly, they have a texture and a flavor almost like lobster. They're sweet, they don't take that long to cook at all, and they really become my favorite shrimp to cook with. Gulf shrimp I love, one of my favorites. When I found the Argentinian red shrimp, and they're a lot cheaper than Gulf shrimp. You can buy big bags, they're frozen, and I keep them in my freezer all the time. They take only about 5 minutes to defrost in a glass bowl of cold water, and then you just peel them, devein them. They're all cleaned. I took the vein out. They tend to be a little more dirty than regular
Backed up.
shrimp. They're all backed up. You pull them out the black part, and you get a lot more females too, which is weird. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to salt and pepper the red shrimp. I'm going to bring them over here. I'm going to throw them in the sauce. And we are just going to let these babies cook for a while now. It doesn't take that long, honestly. You give it about not even 5 minutes, and that stuff is going to be ready. So we're going to let that cook now. We are really close to finishing up the final part of this dish. What's the time, Mike? How long is this taking so
We're
far?
at 20 minutes, 21 minutes to be exact.
Not bad. If we get this dish in under 4 hours, I think we're doing a good job.
We're actually doing it at a speed that you could do this at home along with the recipe, more or less.
Yeah, I don't want to do a thing where we cook a dish like a lot of cooking shows, and they say, and we'll be right back after this ad. And then they go away and they come back and they have a 12-layer cake sitting there. I actually want to show the recipe in real time, as they say, from the minute it's cooked to the minute it's finished, the prep and everything. But the only thing I did prep-wise is that I laid everything out in cool little glass bowls. At home, I don't know if I'm that neat. Usually it's kind of laying just next to the cutting board and I chop them up. I always have salt and pepper and I throw that in. But as far as this goes, it's all been done in real time. So I'm going to let this cook just like this now for a few more minutes. What do you think so far?
It smells really good. I'm excited.
It really does.
I purposely didn't eat all day, so I think this better be good.
So far, so good. I'm going to do one more little thing here. I'm going to give the shrimp about another minute and a half, and then I'm going to do one more little thing. Now, this would be the point if I was at home, I would be already shaking the martini shaker. So whenever there's a downtime and you're in the kitchen, change the music that's on your radio or your CD or your MP3 player. Change the music. Have a drink, sit and relax, talk to your family, talk to your loved ones. Don't make any phone calls. Don't walk away from the stove because this could turn really bad. But this is sort of like the downtime to sort of enjoy life. I don't know how you guys feel, but right now everybody that I know is hanging tight. Everybody's happy and healthy and finding ways to amuse themselves. And if you're watching this, I think we're doing pretty good. How do you feel about that?
I love it.
Good to be out of the house.
It is good to be out of the house. The bad news is that we're now quarantined, so we all have to stay here in the kitchen for the next 2 weeks.
But we do have shows coming up here this weekend.
Tell us about
Who
it.
is it that you have here this weekend, Jamie?
Well, I believe it's going to be you, with no audience, live on Facebook.
You have to be the audience.
It's a weird thing. I can't do it. I can't do a show where there's no one there.
I don't know if you saw the video that I did. Did you see the video of me doing crowd
I
work?
thought it was super fun.
All it was me going, who here is from Southwest Florida? Where are you from? What do you do for a living? And that was the video. That was it. All right, so I'm going to add one more final ingredient to this amazing dish. As if it wasn't briny enough, because we have the olives, the capers, the shrimp from deep water, I'm going to go ahead and add some feta cheese, which is actually one of the healthiest cheeses. There's not a lot of fat in feta cheese. So I'm going to take the feta cheese, and I'm just going to crumble that over the top of the dish. So, you know, on the TV shows that I worked on, whenever there was cheese, I would always make the audience clap. So when I say cheese, all right?
Okay,
so,
when you
so-
say cheese, we're gonna
all
go ballistic.
All right, so, and now our final touches, I'm going to add a little bit of the feta cheese.
Cheese.
It's just like being on the Rachel Ray Show, isn't it? And honestly, this is to taste. I like as much cheese as I can. If you wanted to, at this point, you could probably put it in the oven and that would melt the cheese a little bit. I think it's just a step that I don't necessarily need. So as far as I'm concerned, this dish is just about done. So let me grab a couple of plates here. One for you. And we need
Horrible camera
some utensils.
You're doing great.
Forks. So Jamie's gonna go grab some forks. See, I'm not a front of the house person. I'm a back of the house person. So as far as setting a table, not my job. All right. In the meantime, I'm gonna go over here.
I'm behind you. To the left.
And honestly, whenever you're cooking in the kitchen, you should always have a man on camera that has seizures regularly throughout the taping.
No, it's just been like, oh, we're moving.
I think cut out a lot of this.
No, we're leave it in. It stays in the
No,
show.
we're leaving it in,
It's authentic.
warts and all. Warts and all.
Works.
All
I
right,
had one YouTube tutorial. That's it.
Mike, if you want to show the finished product right there, that's what the red shrimp and tomato sauce and veggies looks like. I'm going to turn off the stove. That way there's no accidents happening. And I'm going to come over here and I am going to start dishing it up. Now at home, you could serve it with some rice. You could serve it with, honestly, with just some crusty bread, I think would be kind of the way to go.
See, I would have thought this would be more on along of a pasta dish. Now, not just because it's a red sauce, but
Any of those.
That's what I was thinking too. But yeah, it looks like you cook it for 7 hours.
You could do pasta, you could do that. All right, so bon appetito, go ahead and try it. And let us know what you think. Dear God, please let the shrimp be cooked.
No, we shouldn't.
so this is the funny part. Actually, is this the cooking with comics where they burn their mouths?
This is it, yeah. Are you really allergic to shrimp? Are you allergic to shrimp? All right, why don't you come on in here.
She's gonna take
Oh,
a
look,
bite
see?
and then tell me how I feel.
It's just like a real TV show. We have a guest joining us, popping in. It's just like the Carson show when Rickles or Dean Martin would show up on set, just like that. So we're gonna have her take a bite of it. Introduce yourself to the camera.
I'm Jessica.
Jessica also works here at the Laugh-In Comedy Cafe. What do you think?
I have no idea what's in it.
So we have, thanks for watching.
I was told I needed to eat for him, and
Yeah.
I'm totally good
All
with
right,
that.
it's got, just to recap, we have Argentinian red shrimp, we have fennel, red peppers, red onions, capers, olives, some dried oregano, some red pepper flakes, salt and pepper, a little bit of vermouth, and that's the dish. Sheena, what do you think?
It's almost like an Italian gumbo,
Yeah.
right?
yeah,
absolutely.
It's got that like red sauce, but that Cajun
You could definitely.
flavor. The vegetables are really crisp. That cooked.
Now let me add one more little thing here real quick. I'm just gonna add just a final squeeze of lemon over the top, and let me know how it tastes that way.
I definitely do it over top of rice.
Because it's good to have a little bit of break.
Potatoes.
See, the lemon adds that little zing at the top. That's what I was talking about. The vermouth and the brininess of the vegetables, adds that like bottom note, and then the lemon at the end adds that Thai little top note.
And it kind of almost like a pinch of salt in your chocolate milk brings out that chocolate,
Yep.
and that lemon kind of brings out the.
A lot of chefs say that it's
Just a tiny little pinch of salt in your chocolate
see.
milk makes the chocolate richer.
really.
I don't know. I don't think that's
How many people have heard of
Trust me.
putting a pinch of salt in your chocolate
I mean,
milk?
I'm a chocolate milk
Crack me
connoisseur.
up, right?
I've never had that. I've never heard of that ever.
Me neither.
Well, I mean, salt does bring out flavors, so
Right.
it makes sense.
But also too, a lot of chefs, for people who are on low salt diets at home, a lot of chefs say that if you do a squeeze of lemon instead of salt, that adds the note on your tongue
Yeah.
that would be missing if you don't have salt. So if you're on a low salt diet, just use a squeeze of lemon on whatever you're making.
We didn't put a lot of salt in it. So.
No, I don't cook with a lot of salt to begin with. I add just enough, and what I do is I put it in, each stage of the recipe. A little bit at the beginning, a little bit in the middle, a little bit at the end, and then it's properly seasoned. People who throw a bunch of salt at the end, all you're going to taste is the salt. So you got to do it as you go along.
And this has a lot of flavor in it anyway, when in all the ingredients, so you don't really need a ton of salt.
At all.
And feta is the perfect cheese for this. I
Yep.
don't know if I would put a different cheese in.
No, I wouldn't either, as a matter of fact. And also the feta is salty enough, again, that you don't need a lot of salt. So it's all about flavors and combining flavors so you get a little bit of everything. If you wanted to, a couple of times I've put some fresh walnuts in this at the end to add a little bit of crunch. It's okay. You know, not my favorite thing that I've ever done. You could put pistachios into. That's maybe a little more.
You know, you're proving you're from the Midwest. Every Midwest mother has put a walnut into every damn thing ever invented for food. My mother invented new things to put nuts in. It's just like, oh, salad, nuts, meat, it's meatloaf, nuts.
For those of you paying attention at home, his mother put nuts in everything.
And invented some things to put them in.
How many people made up their own dirty joke right now? Yeah, okay, perfect. All right, so listen, that's the recipe for today. I said that this is going to be short and sweet. I want to thank all my guests for joining me here today. I hope you guys are learning something at home. Like I said, this is the first video that we're doing, so it's a little maybe off kilter now, but we'll get better at it as we go along. I think on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give this what? A 10? Sheena says 10. What about the Russian judge? 8.5. And the Ukrainian is calling Joe Biden. Anyway, that's the recipe for today. Thanks for joining R.C. Smith and Cooking for Comics. I hope you like the recipe. Please try this at home. It's easy, it's flavorful, and a piece of crusty bread with it. It'll be delicious. So we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye. Bye.
Bye, guys.
See you
We'll see you
soon.
this weekend.
One last little thing, if you will, ladies and gentlemen. This is our low-tech graphics right here. This is our final scene of R.C. Smith's Cooking with Comics. We hope to have this on Simco Online on Facebook Live sometime next week. If you will, please check us out.